Baby boomers own 32 million houses in the US. That's nearly 4 out of every 10 homes. And the moment that they start to sell, everything could change in the housing market. Now, some say it will crash home prices. Others say not so fast. But make no mistake, we may be seeing the first waves of the silver tsunami right now. For example, in the villages of Florida, the inventory of homes for sale has absolutely skyrocketed. And this is a big 55 and older community. Inventory's up 110% versus 2019. So there are definite signs that the silver tsunami is maybe here and started. And that's what we're talking about today on The Housing Nerd. And this is part 2 of our discussion. Part 1 was yesterday. We talked about what the silver tsunami and all these baby boomers, what it could mean for the housing market right now, over the next year. Today, we're going to talk about what could happen if these 32 million homes hit the market over the next few decades. And yeah, there's some interesting information I'm going to share today. My name is Jason Ferrier. I am the Housing Nerd. I'm a realtor. I'm an investor outside of Columbus, Ohio. And I'm not your typical realtor, though. I'm not going to tell you got to run out and buy a house today. It's never been a better time to buy. Marry the house, date the rate. You're not going to hear that from me unless I'm making fun of it because I want you to make your own decision about real estate. I'm also not going to tell you to sit on the sidelines until I give you the all clear to buy. It's up to you. It's your decision. It's your money. It's your life. I'm going to provide the data. Then you make your own decisions. But today, diving into this silver tsunami, for those that don't know what the silver tsunami is all about, it's basically the idea that there's a flood of homes that could hit the market in the next few decades as baby boomers age out. And if you aren't familiar with this already, the baby boomers own upwards of the 32 million homes. It's about 40% of the total real estate market as far as residential goes. And a lot of these are landlords. A lot of these folks own second, third homes. Not everybody, though. Some of them just own their primary home, right? And a lot of these people have worked for years to pay off their properties. In fact, about 50%, around 50% have no mortgage at all. And a lot of the other people who do have mortgages have super low rates. So as these folks, and it just is what it is, right? There's death and taxes in life. And these folks will get older, pass away. And the idea is that even as they downsize, they're going to have to sell their properties or they're going to hit the market. And that's going to create a flood of inventory that may, by some accounts, and some people say it would crash home prices. So yeah, that's what we're looking at today. We're looking approximately, when we really talk about numbers here, we're looking at between 9 and 14 million homes could hit the market over the next decade. That's what we're really looking at as far as supply goes by most accounts, but it's always a lot more complicated than that, right? It just is. So one of the things that we're looking at today is how the population's trending, because that would affect it. We're also going to look at a map of the U.S. and look at maybe where some of the pain has already started. We know it's starting somewhat in Florida, like the villages. I just looked at that. And we're also going to look at some other factors that are involved as these homes could hit the market. So should be a great discussion. I appreciate you joining me this morning. Hit the like button for me. Subscribe to the Housing Nerd channel. Share my video with somebody else you think would get some value out of this. So let me go to this right here. So this is an article from Resi Club Analytics, and I think you probably find some value in this. I'll put the link below. But this is saying that Freddie Mac came out with an article. This was like actually late last or early last year. They came out with this and said the silver tsunami will be a gradual reduction as 9 million boomers exit the housing market by 2035. So a lot of people are saying, hey, this silver tsunami of homes, when they hit the market, it's going to crash prices. Some people are saying it's going to be more gradual. So the quote here is the silver tsunami is more like a tide with a gradual reduction phasing in over several years, according to Freddie Mac. Again, I'm curious to hear what you have to say about this. And how they look at this is a little different. They're looking at how many people are actually leaving. How many easy for me to say. There will be 9.2 million fewer baby boomer households by 2035. So they're looking at the reduction of households, not necessarily how many homes are hitting the market. So when you look at this article, you got to think, all right, well, there's going to be some that hit the market or a lot that hit the market because of the reduction in households. So they go on to say, while economists at Freddie Mac estimate that the number of baby boomer homeowner households will decline from 32 million in 2022 to 23 million in 2035, they don't anticipate it picking up steam for another few years. They say the so-called silver tsunami will really be more like a gradual reduction. Over the next 5 years, the decline is more modest, and we only see a reduction of 2.7 million households by 2028. In this sense, the silver tsunami is more like a tide with a gradual reduction phasing in over the next several years, while the number of people aging out of home ownership will increase in the coming years. It's more like an upward sloping trend than a disruptive spike. So again, you have to kind of think about this inverse, right? They're saying, hey, here's the reduction in baby boomer households, meaning they're going to have houses that hit the market. And so again, like we're in 2025. So they're saying, hey, 1 million boomers leaving households, maybe going into retirement homes or what have you in 2025. And then 2026, 1.5 million, 2027, 2.1. So they're saying it's more like a gradual shift, not necessarily all at one time event. I think that's important, right? Because real estate's slow, especially the supply end of real estate. Despite the calls for the silver tsunami in 2024, Freddie Mac only expects a 300,000 net decline this year in the number of baby boomer homeowner households. The annual decline will accelerate every year after that. So what does this really mean for the housing market, right? I even asked the question, will the baby boomer sell-off impact the U.S. housing market? While age will inevitably catch up with us all individually, the population as a whole is renewed by younger generations. In addition to the natural growth from population, there is still a large latent demand for housing. Let me know what you think. Like, are we going to see, the population continue to increase? I'm going to look at a chart here in a minute showing you that population. And if we don't see an increase in population, what will happen to housing? I'd like to know what you think. But if they're saying, hey, we're going to see population growth, and that's going to eat up the demand for the houses left over by the boomers. For at least the next few years, economists at Freddie Mac believe the housing demand from Gen Z and millennials can compensate for the selling off of baby boomer households. What's interesting is they also say that while they're bullish about home prices in 2020s, they are still bearish about home prices long term unless immigration compensates for declining birth rates. In 2030s, housing demand will start falling because Gen Zs will make a smaller cohort than millennials, plus will face a steeper affordability challenge. At the same time, supply will increase as boomers age. So they're kind of coming out and saying, hey, everything's kind of green right now through 2020s, but in the 2030s, they're kind of bearish on housing. They're like, we think more like the supply will make a big difference. It's interesting that they talk about affordability challenges Because if supply really ramps up, we will have a massive price decline. I mean, if we really have millions and millions of more homes, more supply equals lower prices. So one would think that we're going to see lower prices if supply actually ramps up. Now, take a look at this. This is a chart from the US Census Bureau. It basically tells us where the population's going to probably go by their forecast, right? What's interesting is it's continued to downgrade their forecast. So in 2008, look at this. They thought there would be 420 million folks, 420 million people by 2050. Now they're saying not so fast. That number's probably going to be more like, what do they have? 360 million. So they're like, in population, you can tell there's a kind of a trough here. It keeps going up and then it kind of declines. It kind of doesn't it actually does decline. And that's their latest forecast. So they're saying by now this isn't happening in the next decade, they're saying, but they're like, yeah, by the birth rates we're seeing right now, like 2080 is when we're going to see population start to decline. So this would be important for my kid, right? For if you're a Gen Xer and you've got kids, it'd be important for them to see as they get older. But for us right now, it looks like it's going to continue to go up as far as population goes. And they make that interesting comment about, and this is the natural population, by the way. It doesn't count immigration. So but it's interesting because they actually made a comment in that article and said, hey, unless immigration changes, or not counting immigration, we're going to see a decline. So, with all the efforts that are going on right now with immigration, maybe that'll change, right? Maybe population will decline. I don't know. Let me know what you think. But this is important because if there aren't more people out there wanting to buy a home, and there are a lot of people who are passing away and leaving their homes, one would think supply is going to increase, prices are going to fall. In fact, according to this individual here, Merideth Whitney, you guys may know who she is. She's an analyst who called the 2008 financial crisis. And she describes what will happen when baby boomers age out of their homes and start downsizing. You'll see a supply-demand dynamic shift. Whitney, founder of CEO of Whitney Advisory Group, told Yahoo Finance Invest Conference on Tuesday. This is an article from last year, I think. 2 years ago, actually, 2023. Whitney predicted U.S. home prices will start to come down as the supply of homes for sale goes up because of this silver tsunami, warning there could be a risk if not enough young buyers are able to absorb the homes freed up by baby boomers. However, while that might sound like good news for millennials, and this was really interesting, pay attention to this part, because I was like, I can see this happening probably. However, while this might sound like good news for millennials and Gen Z on the surface, other economists argue that younger generations could run into other problems. Because the shift will take place over the next 10 years, millennials, many of whom are now of home buying age, will likely miss out on the silver tsunami. Plus, there could be another complication. Even though baby boomers will downsize, not all will end up in retirement communities. Many could move into smaller communities, meaning they could snap up affordable starter homes that younger generations would otherwise buy. Curious what you think about that, because I pulled a stat and about 68% of boomers say they're going to age in place and not sell their property. They're going to age in the house they're in until there's a point they can't. And I know boomers who say that, and they're confident. They're like, you know what? I like this house. I'm just going to stay here. And I've gotten comments from my channel saying that they have relatives, even boomers themselves, that are like, I'm never going to leave. I'm never going to sell. So a lot of these, the majority of these boomers are like, I'm not going to sell until I pass away. The question is, what happens when they do pass away and leave us, right? And this is something I said this yesterday, and somebody actually brought it up on the chat. I think you really have to go out and find a professional to outline your plans of what to do with your property when you do pass away, because you don't know when that happens, right? I mean, nobody's psychic, so it's like it could happen tomorrow, it could happen when you're 90. And if you don't have a plan for that, on what happens when you pass away, it can leave your family in a lurch. So make sure you have a plan of your property. So you want to see, talk to an estate attorney, um, certainly a real estate attorney, to understand the options and what you can do. But in any case, you've got 68% of people aging in place. That could make things more complicated, they're saying. And that could continue to push millennials and Gen Zers out of the housing market and further drive up starter home prices. In the end, the ones with the most cash, likely the boomers, will win out. So I've read a lot. I mean, I've studied this now for, I've been putting a lot of energy into diving into the Silver Tsunami, because I was like, it can't be that simple, right? Just all these folks pass away and all these houses hit the market and people are like, woo, houses are cheap. I'm like, something else is probably more complicated than that, right? And they say like older generations hold the vast majority of housing wealth. The value of homes owned by baby boomers was roughly 18 trillion as of the first quarter of 2023. In contrast, Gen X held about 13.4 trillion, while millennials held about 5 trillion. The key difference here is the baby boomers will likely be able to tap home equity by selling their existing home, allowing them to perhaps make a more compelling offer on a house compared to the millennials, especially if the latter group is still renting. So they're saying, people live longer, technology, healthcare is better now than it was in decades past. Because of that, people are living longer, and because they're living longer, they may be still buyers of homes for years to come, keeping people locked out of the housing market. But let me know what you think about that. It's because, it could be the case, and able to pay cash, right? I mean, if there's all that trillions of dollars in equity, they could be tapping that cash or tapping that equity in order to buy another house. And the other thing is, which kind of crazy, is if they're trying to buy a smaller house or downsize, that's a lot of times a starter home for somebody. So that's kind of a, almost like a catch-22, I guess. So that's kind of what I discovered when it came to the Silver Tsunami. But there's kind of, I think now maybe the time to review this, which again is an inventory picture, because it's not going to happen everywhere at once. Like, it's really going to depend on the demographics where you happen to live. And I think that now you can start to see some of this Silver Tsunami already happening. And again, when I look at the state, and this is inventory of homes for sale versus 2019. So before COVID, inventory was actually shrinking still. It was actually shrinking in most places, and definitely in the US, you could see inventory numbers falling. It wasn't growing. So we were already losing homes before COVID. But the reason I'm showing you this is you can kind of start to see maybe where there's some Silver Tsunami activity happening now. Like, look at Florida. Florida is up 23% in the number of homes for sale right now versus pre-COVID. Conversely, if you look at an area like Ohio, where I am, inventory is still down 27% versus COVID levels. So we have fewer homes on the market right now in Ohio than we did in 2019. Same with Illinois and the entire Northeast. And we're not talking like 10% down. We're talking, look at this, New Jersey, 56% down. And by the way, if you live in the Northeast, I want to hear from you, because I keep hearing folks on YouTube, other housing analysts, tell us that the Northeast is like joining the party of crash areas and there's tons of inventory hitting the market. But all the information I'm getting from my viewers tells me that's completely a lie. It's a complete fabricated narrative. because they're like, man, I'm in like Rochester, New York. I'm in the Bronx. I'm in New York. I'm in New Jersey, and there are no homes for sale. Like there's no inventory. And so I'm like, wow, if so, there's some people out there spinning that web of lies, I guess. And it'd be interesting to know from you if you live in the Northeast what's going on, or anywhere in the US, what's happening with inventory. But in any case, like look at Florida, you could see definitely up 23%, a lot of retired folks. Now check this out. Look at the zip code level. Let me actually go to the metro level here. So if I go to the metro level, the Villages, again, which is a big retirement community, if you don't know, it's like one of the largest, I think, retirement communities in the country, I believe. But look at the inventory. It has spiked big time. Like if I look at the inventory count, I mean, look at this. I mean, they have more homes on the market now than they've had in the last decade. And you got to think there are not a lot of millennials. I mean, it's a 55 and over community. There's not a lot of millennials, not a lot of Gen Xers or Gen Z putting their home on the market. It's probably boomers, right? So again, I think it's going to be concentrated where the demographics dictate. And maybe a lot of it could be coastal areas where they have, you know, vacation homes. It could be where they have second homes, rental properties, tourist areas, right? Where they're kind of looking to spend some time when it's warm there and cold in the north. But it's going to happen probably everywhere, just not everywhere at the same time, as far as the Silver Tsunami goes. Now, I'm wondering, I didn't check this. I'm wondering if home prices in the Villages are down year over year. Let me check. Yeah, down 2%. Look at this. Home prices down 2%. I mean, look at back in 2022, they were up 29% year over year. That's insane. That is crazy. I wonder what they've done since COVID in the Villages. Since before COVID. Up 33% since the beginning of COVID, which isn't really that crazy. But since the peak in 2022, look at this. They're down 7%. Wow. Okay. So that's kind of interesting. There is a part, though, that there is a part of this Silver Tsunami equation that a lot of people are missing. And I'm going to get to that in a minute. I'm going to show you actually a boomer house, a real live boomer house. And you'll get to see kind of what's going on with it. And I think it's a great example of what is coming to market soon in many areas, especially in the north. Let me look at some comments here, and then I'll get to that next part. Good morning, John. How are you? Good morning, Michael. Good to see you. If population, what's up, Pocket Watchdog? If population flatlines or starts going down, has to be at least some deals on homes. Refer to Japan and Italy's home prices now with their population crashes over the last decade. Yeah. I mean, you'd think, right? You'd think you're going to see that. More supply is lower prices generally. What's up, Pirate Justin? Happy Friday to you too. German Fernandez, how are you doing? Good to see you. My Zestimate dropped 33% in 6 months. Yikes. Well, according to a lot of people, your Zestimate is a lie. So maybe it didn't drop. Maybe the value actually went up. It's interesting, like depending on what, I'm not saying this is you, John, but like I hear people say, well, your Zestimate's not true. It's a lie. It's like, okay. But when the values for Zillow's estimates drop, those same people will say, look, home values are dropping. I don't play that game. I'm just like, you know what? I'm going to use the data that we have. And then if I'm going to buy something, I'm going to do the comp work myself. So I don't play the game of like the Zestimates are fraud. I'm not saying you're saying that. I just thought this was funny, and it's a great point, because it's like, okay, so maybe if Zestimates are actually lies and the prices come down for Zestimates, does that mean it's still a lie and they actually went up? When you spin mistrust within the community of people looking for housing information, when you spin distrust, when the data flips the other side, you look like a fool, because you're like, well, now it's going down, but you told us not to trust the data. But now you like the data, so you trust it. Crazy. So I'm just like, hey, I'm going to use the data. I'm going to roll with it. It is what it is. It's what I got. Right. Anyway, I thought that was funny. But the crazy 33%. Wow. Where do you live? I'd love to know. Massachusetts. Thank you, German, right? I think I'm saying it right. Massachusetts here, area prices haven't gone up, but haven't gone down either from what I can see. Yeah, let's look real quick. I can't help myself with data, so you're just going to have to bear with me. We ask that you please bear with us. All right, look at state. I mean, you say Massachusetts, right? Let me go to, let me go to, where in Massachusetts? You're right. Look at this. I don't know where you are, but in Boston, for instance, up just 1%, right? You're up just 1%. So year over year. So they haven't fallen, but they haven't gone up a ton. So you're right about that. Let's look at the state and see what it's looking like. Yeah, look at this. Great call. Let me do this one. Yeah, look at this. Yeah, Massachusetts only up 1.2%. Yep. Yep. I mean, home prices, the growth of home prices is slowing. No doubt about it. Like, I'm not a realtor that's going to tell you home prices only go up, because that ain't true. They definitely can fall. They're not crashing in a lot of areas. It's only, I think it's 105 out of the top 300 metros, the last time I looked, are down in home prices year over year. So the majority of areas are still up. In fact, the national median home price is still up versus last year, but the growth between last year and this year is compressing. There's no doubt, because there's more inventory, and interest rates are higher, and a lot of people don't need to sell, and a lot of people don't need to buy. Right? We'll still do 4 million transactions this year nationally in the housing market. I've had a pretty good year in real estate as an agent, but it's not off the chain. So anyway, that's what's happening in Massachusetts. But I'm curious where you live. Thanks for chiming in and letting us know what's happening. I appreciate that. That's valuable information. I mean, that really helps me. What's up, Ches? What do you think would be the next scare for people to relist their delisted homes? I think that's a great question. Well, it's probably something, I mean, it's different for every seller, right? I would think a major downturn in the stock market could make a big difference. I mean, if there's a major downturn in the stock market, a lot of the people that don't need to sell their house at all and are just testing the market, they're probably invested in the stock market somewhere. That could make a difference. That's a great question. It could also make a difference if, I mean, I'm talking like a mass number of them. It could also make a difference if the United States calls an official recession. I mean, I think it's completely lame that people are excited for them to call a recession or waiting for that to happen. Like, who cares if they do? How does that change your daily life? It really doesn't. But it changes the narrative and the perception. So that could like scare people into, putting their home on the market quickly at a price that makes sense. That could make a difference. Interest rate drop could make a difference. Like if interest rates fall a lot, it could cause people to list their home because they want to buy another one. And they're like, hey, now the switching cost isn't as high. That could make a difference. Um, I guess if home prices drop significantly where they live, that could also make a difference. Like if they're looking around and they see a headline from the local ABC News affiliate, and they're like, "Hey, home prices are finally actually falling. They're down 5% year over year." Somebody's like, "Oh boy, I better put my home on the market." That can make a difference. Or if it's just a life event, right? Man, those are my ideas. I'm sure there's other ones. Oh, you're in Gladwin, Michigan. Still low inventory. Gladwin, Michigan, huh? Cool. Ah, south of Boston. Okay. I love Boston. I really do. Oh, you invest in Rhode Island as well. Be interested to see what it looks like there. Yeah, so stick around to the end. I'll pull some of these zip codes for you guys. I want to just get to the end of the Silver Tsunami thing, and then I can pull some of these zip codes. I'm just gonna mark these. I'll do Gladwin, Michigan too, John Doe, and I'll do Rhode Island. I'll do Boston in more detail. Chaz, if you're looking to buy to live in those areas, it's good but horrible idea if you want to rent it out. Hmm. Okay. All right. Check this out. So this part here is really important for the Silver Tsunami idea. And here's the part I think everybody misses about the Silver Tsunami and this idea that homes are going to flood the market. And that, my friends, is the age of US homes, because homes in the US are old. The average home in the US is 40 years old. 40 years old. So this always perplexes me, because people talk about the fact that we have, and this is probably another chart I should bring up for you, Fred. Uh, this is the supply of homes in the US, of new homes. That's not the one I want. That's what I want. This is it. Yeah, here it is. So this supply of new homes in the US, I hear people all the time say, we have too many new homes. We're oversupplied in new homes. In fact, let me know what you think in the comments. Are we oversupplied of new homes in the US? Are we oversupplied of homes, period? Many people think we do. Like the idea that builders overbuilt, just like they did during the GFC, and now we're going to have so many new homes on the market that builders are going to go bankrupt and the housing market will crash. In some areas of the US, we are seeing more homes for sale that are new, but a lot of areas we're not. In fact, and actually, let me go back. Sorry, guys. Let me do this first and show you this part. Let me go back to this map. Then I'll get to the new homes. I think it'll make more sense. This is the median age of homes by metro area. And you can see dark blue is older, yellow is newer. So remember, the average age of a house in the US is 40 years old. So homes they're just old, right? And at 40 years old, you're going to need, when a home gets to like 40 years old, you're definitely going to need a roof by then. You're probably going to need new windows. You're going to need maybe upgraded electric, maybe upgraded plumbing. You're probably dealing with sometimes copper plumbing. It could be galvanized plumbing. That's what I see in a lot of older homes. But some of these areas have homes, the average age of a home is like 50, 60 years old, not 40. And that presents a massive problem when it comes to this Silver Tsunami narrative. Why is that? Well, because as these houses hit the market from boomers, if it's super old, it's going to need a ton of work. It's not going to be move-in ready. And again, it's geography. It really depends on where you live, right? It's really specific to the geography. So look at this. In New York, for instance, the median age of a home, not the average, the median is 64 years. 64 years. I mean, look at the Northeast. We just have somebody on from Boston. 60 years in Boston. Homes are old. Look where I am in Columbus, 42 years. In Cleveland, 61 years. In Chicago, 53 years. Now, as you go south, homes get newer. Like, look at this, like Orlando, 28 years. Tampa, 38 years. That's actually kind of old. I'm surprised how old that is. Miami, 41 years. Los Angeles, 55 years. San Francisco, 56 years. Look at Texas, though, 29 years. Still old. 29 years in Houston. Phoenix, 29 years. Las Vegas, 25 years. And so on. So the point is, homes are old, and people have this idea that we are oversupplied of new homes. Well, riddle me this. If we're oversupplied of new homes, why don't we just stop building? Like, we don't need any new homes, a lot of people say. And yet builders keep building, although they have dialed it back in the last year or so. Starts are down, completions are down. You're going to see that in a minute. But if we stop building new homes, we're going to be in serious trouble. Not because we necessarily need a ton of homes, although we do need more inventory. It's that the houses that are out there don't make sense for future buyers, in my opinion. It could be because they are in spots people don't want to live. Like, if a lot of these newer homes are in one or two areas of the U.S., well, how does that help buyers in the Northeast? It doesn't. So those markets are going to continue to be very expensive. And the other thing is, it could be homes that are like vacation homes. I mean, be honest, like, if somebody builds a home in Hilton Head, South Carolina, and you're a first-time home buyer, what does it matter if somebody built a house in Hilton Head and it's vacant and even on the market? It doesn't help you at all. You're like, well, I'm not going to move to Hilton Head. I'm in Denver. How does that help me? So, like, people are completely crazy with this idea of oversupply, and they're doing it for a narrative. They're doing it to try to scare you into thinking that builders have overbuilt all over the U.S. and we're just doomed. And it's like, well, if they've built too many homes, why can't I find one that's affordable? They know they can't answer that question. They'll say they're misallocated. Well, look at this. Look at the supply of new homes. It's plummeting. It was, I mean, we had a supply. These are how many homes unsold that are brand new on the market. We had like 9.6 months of supply, which is not as much as we had during the GFC. Look, during the GFC, we had 11.4 months of supply. So anytime somebody tells you we have an all-time high, actually, look, 12.2 months of supply. So anytime somebody tells you we have 12 or we have the all-time high in new home supply, they're lying, because we don't. It went during the GFC, it was 12 months. Now it's fallen all the way down to 7.4 months. So it's dropping. New home starts are down like 6%. Completions are down 8%. Builders are not building like they were during COVID. I mean, during COVID, look at this. It went up to what, 9 months of supply. So we had more new homes because builders recognized we could maximize that opportunity. This all ties into the Silver Tsunami, because if we don't build newer, smaller, hopefully, homes, we will have a big problem coming up in the next few years, certainly in the next couple decades. I mean, this period of time right here, between 2012 to really 2020 or so, maybe 2018, we were woefully low in the number of new homes being built. Like in Ohio, for instance, only 1.7% of all houses were built after 2020. Let that sink in. That is not a narrative. That's a fact. And you can pretend that we don't need any more new homes, that we are oversupplied, that it's all hidden, that it's all shadow off market. And that's BS as well, because if somebody needs to sell their property, they're not going to keep it off market. They're going to put it on the MLS. They're going to drop a flyer from an airplane. So you got to add supply of new homes. Got to. Not only because we need them now, but because homes are old in the US. They're really old. So check this out. This, my friends, is a boomer home, a Silver Tsunami home that you've been waiting for maybe. And this is the type of home that a lot of people think is going to completely crash the housing market. Well, they say all these homes from boomers are going to crash the housing market. But what they never tell you, ever tell you, is what these homes look like. My dog in here is barking. Um, this is what they look like. This home was built in 1920. It's got wood siding. A lot of homes built in 1920 had wood siding. And this is a home my one of my clients bought. And then I'll take you in the inside here. This is what it looks like on the inside. I have their permission to share this. But look at this. This is what boomer Silver Tsunami homes look like. Here's what's crazy. Look at this. This siding right here, this is siding, old wood siding. So this room that I'm in is an actual addition to the house. But you can see originally this was the outside, and you can see the old wood siding that's in a room after they took the drywall off. You see the bathroom there, right? It's actually kind of a cool house. Really spacious. It's got like 5 bedrooms. Let me go back to the kitchen though and show you. I think I showed the kitchen at the beginning. Yeah, look at this kitchen. I mean, it's been gutted, right? And now a new kitchen will go in. But this is like 100, you're talking 100, 150, depends on what you do with it, 175, 200 grand in work to bring it up to speed. So the idea that this Silver Tsunami is coming, you're going to be able to buy a home for pennies on the dollar. You may be, but you better bring your hammer with you. And the people that talk about the Silver Tsunami, folks, the talking heads out there, like Merideth Whitney, do you think she's ever gone to a building like this or a house like this and actually done any work? Do you think she understands that this is what the inventory looks like? Absolutely not. She has no idea. She looks at the number and says, look at that. But numbers on a spreadsheet do not swing a hammer. And as someone who has renovated a lot of homes myself and bought homes from boomers, from Silver Tsunami folks, I can clearly tell you that this is the reality of the housing market. The good news is that this also presents a tremendous opportunity for you, a tremendous opportunity if you're willing to do things others are unwilling to do. This particular home was bought at a price that gives the new owner massive value because they bought it at the right price. They're putting money into it, sweat equity, and they will have probably 35% equity when it's all said and done. And the market where this is really expensive. It's an expensive market, hard to get into. And this home was not shadow. This was on the MLS for anybody to buy. Anybody could have bought it. I missed it. I missed this house. This house, like, it's near me, and I did not jump on it. Was not paying attention to the market like my client was. My client called and said, "Hey, I want to buy this house, or I want to take a look at it." We went and took a look at it. I couldn't be happier for them. It's awesome that they got it. I'm just really excited for them because it's going to be a sweet rental, and it is going to be a rental house. So the idea there's another misconception that like these boomers and landlords and banks all are like controlling all this housing. Well, you must be looking at things I'm not seeing in the real world, because this is what I'm seeing. This is like the house. This is what it looks like. This is real deal Holyfield, folks. Real live boomer homes. And it was on the MLS. Anybody could have bought it. And it's crazy to me. What's really crazy is as that product, as that house sat on the market, no owner occupant got off their rear end and said, you know what, I'm looking to buy in that town. I'm going to take a stab at that house. It could have been an amazing owner occupant house. Like if there was a first time home buyer that was renting around the area and they were like, oh, I want to be in that area. I want to buy a house. Well, they could have jumped on this, bought it at an amazing price, renovated it, lived in it, and crushed the market with it, right? Had an amazing return when it came to down the road with equity. And as an investor, my client's gonna reap the rewards from it. And they're not a huge investor. They're not like a hedge fund. They're not Wall Street. They're not BlackRock. 90% of all rentals are owned by mom and pop landlords. That's the inconvenient hard truth. So it's out there, man. It is out there for everybody to grab if you're willing to do the work. This is the, let me go show you this. This is the upstairs. Let me see if there's anything else in here that's kind of interesting. But here's the outside again. And you can see they're going to have to probably put a new roof on it. They're going to put new siding on it. They're going to probably put new windows in many of these windows. Some of them are okay. Got a sun porch here. Here's the old appliance laying out here. Here's their dumpster, right? Because they're doing the renovation. This is like a home run. I mean, the person that bought this literally hit the ball out of the park. And these opportunities exist. As we see more Silver Tsunami homes hit the market, you're going to have more opportunities like this. And it's just a matter of how bad you want it. That's what it really comes down to. So if you're waiting on like that perfect house on the perfect street just given to you, or for pennies on the dollar, somebody's going to buy it before you. They just will. There'll be a point at which a house gets cheap enough that somebody's like, oh, I'll buy that. And they'll snatch it before you. So to me, you go out now and do the work to find opportunities like this that are bought at huge discounts from the current market price. Anyway, that I thought was really cool. And a good exercise to show you guys of a real house, not a fake one or a theory. So let me go back to some comments here and see what you have to say. LBH new homes are not being made to the same quality level of old homes. Sure, some stuff may be outdated, but it's taking older one over newer any day. Yeah, great point. In fact, look at this. Here is, it's basically me in here because I recorded a video for it's in editing now. What I wanted to show you was the basement, to your point on old homes. Yeah, look at this basement. This is the basement of an old home. You talk about how the quality of construction, like this, think about it. This is 100 years old, 105 years old, right? Come on, video. It's not cooperating with me. Dang it. can't believe it's not working. Anyway, I had pictures or actually video of me in the basement because the basement is like all sandstone and it's been there for 105 years. So to your point, Planet of the Amps, there's no doubt that they're being made cheaper. So riddle me this. Why do we not need any more new homes if the ones that we have now that are being built aren't going to last 105 years? Don't you think we need more new homes? And there's a lot of old homes that are going to be bulldozed, by the way. I think we bulldoze like 300 to 400,000 homes in the US, according to the research I did, a year. So there's attrition of homes, right? There just are. And sorry, I apologize. The video didn't cooperate with me on this one. I don't know why. But yeah, homes are old in the US. I just saw Lance Lambert tweet saying finished home supply is on the rise. Is that different from new houses? No, it's not different. The completed homes are, the information I have says that they're down 8% in completed homes. But what's really alarming are the starts, because they had started a lot of homes back in, the last few years, and those are coming to market now. But the number of homes they're actually starting is falling. That supply is actually falling based on the information I have. But I hope they build new homes. We need more new homes. You don't want to see lower supply of new homes. You need more new homes. At least I think you do, especially if they're all falling apart. Like, they're not going to last very long. No, it was not a short sale. Nope. On the MLS, like any other property, for anybody to buy. And again, I missed it. I'm an investor. I'm the housing nerd, and I missed this thing. Like, it actually was like priced at a level where it didn't make sense. And then all of a sudden they dropped the price. And what happened when they dropped the price? It got like 5 offers immediately. And then my client won it. So, it was not a short sale, just a regular house. It was a, but I believe it was an inherited house, like passed down in a trust. So that's that perfect boomer thing. I think 70% of kids, 70% of inherited houses are sold. That's the stat I've researched. So if you look at that and you think, all right, well, this is one of those 70% homes. And if you don't want this type of house, then this supply doesn't matter to you. Meaning, when you hear someone spin a narrative about supply growing, just sit and wait, the bubble is popping because there's all these boomer homes hitting the market. If these are the homes hitting the market and you don't want a 1920 house, what does it matter to you if these homes hit the market? It's not going to help you. By the way, this was a vacant home too, obviously. Somebody didn't live in this over the last couple of years. So this is one of those 15 million vacant houses out there that people talk about ad nauseum. How is this going to help people when it comes to vacant homes? It needs everything. And that's what vacant homes are like. I hate to break the news to people, but that's what they're like. They're not nice and like ready to be moved into and amazing. And, they're all jacked up. It's going to require work. And this house, I think you could have actually lived in if you moved into it at the beginning. It'd been rough, but you could have lived in it. Again, it's just how bad you want it. What's up? ADUs may help provide new homes, but why build a one ADU for 300 grand when you can buy a multiple units for the same price? Old homes make it more affordable. Yeah, ADUs, like, I can't understand why more cities don't do more ADUs. I mean, even in these little areas I'm in the Midwest, you've got these cities that have like 50,000 people, and they're like, no. They're like, oh, NIMBY, right? Not in my backyard. They're like, I do not want ADUs. ADU, by the way, folks, is an accessory dwelling unit. So if you have like a casita, that's a fancy term for it, I suppose. But you could, if you built like a little bungalow in your backyard attached to your home, or detached rather, like a mother-in-law house or something. The idea is if cities would allow people to build those, you could then have more housing units without expansion of suburbs. And there are little towns throughout the country, tiny, tiny towns where they need more affordable housing. especially newer homes, and those little lots exist. I mean, think about like inside of Columbus, there are all these city lots where you've got a house with a decent sized property. You could easily put an ADU there and have a nice little rental for someone. What German is referring to is that they're expensive to build, 300 grand. I agree. If it's going to cost you 300 grand to build an ADU, probably doesn't make any sense. But that's probably cheaper than building a new home in the suburbs, I would think, right? But ADUs are a great idea. Like, I think they need to be unlocked. But that's not fun. That's not like headline grabbing stuff. So what happens? Somebody comes out and says, we're going to use federal land to make housing more affordable by building on federal land. How's that going for us, by the way? I haven't seen I haven't seen anything on that at all. That's like saying, hey, I'm going to clean my garage this weekend, babe. And then, Saturday you're not cleaning it. Sunday you're not cleaning it. And people are like, your wife's like, weren't you going to clean the garage? It's like, no, I was just saying that. It sounds flashy at the time, but it ain't real. So ADUs are one of those things where it's not a flashy solution. It's a long-term solution. But that's the type of thinking people have to do in order to make housing more affordable, I think. Take advantage of the existing properties instead of trying to build urban sprawl. Making an offer on a probate dump on Saturday. Oh, good for you. Hope you get it. Nice job. Finally, something I think I can remodel and get all in for $2K a month. Well done. And I mean, I'm really happy, McConaughey. I think I hope it works out for you. If it doesn't, don't stop. Obviously, I don't think you will. Keep going. I'd love you to be able to broadcast this on the Doomer channels. I'd love you to be able to go on some other channels and talk about, hey, I'm out there actually trying. I'm doing something rather than living in fear every day. In the real estate ad, you will see the basement listed as the home has a mature, charming basement ideal for the weekend DIY or general contractor. Yeah, you're right. You're absolutely correct. Yep. That's a great point. This basement, I will show it to you here in a minute. I think I can bring it up. This basement is nothing you'd ever want to. I mean, you probably have to do some work on it, to keep it in good condition, but nothing you'd ever want to remodel. Do you feel the info you give is more catered towards investors versus buyers who want to live in a house? No, not at all. Great question, Josh. I think all these techniques are great for buyers who want to live in the house. That's what I'm saying. This house right here was an investor bought it, but an owner occupant should have bought it. Like, I mean, where it was priced, an owner occupant should have bought it. And in summary, you should think like an investor if you want to buy a home, because then you can go hunt for the deal, know that you have cash flow, know that you are not overpaying for a house. I think all that's important. Let me see if this will work now. I don't know if it will. It's giving me fits. I want to show you that basement because it's crazy. And as oops. Man, StreamYard sometimes is not helpful. Right here. So look at this basement. I'm going to go into it, and it's like a dungeon. Well, it looks like a dungeon, but it's actually in really good shape for how old the house is. I mean, like, look at these walls, right? I mean, look at that sandstone wall. It hasn't gone anywhere in 105 years, right? And the older homes have some sag to them. right? They've got sloping floors. That's just how they are. I mean, they've settled over 105 years. If you were 105 years old, you'd be stagnant too, right? But I mean, that's a great picture right here, right there. I don't know if you could see it. I went too fast. They've got these huge beams that are supporting the home right there. Like these are like hand hewn, right? I mean, they're like hand chipped out of a massive log at one point back in the day. And they're still there. And they're still solid as ever. The wood in these houses is like petrified. It's like rot resistant because it was built out of old trees. Now all the homes are built out of new trees. But all these homes were built out of really old trees. So, Josh, I think if you really want to find a house to live in, let's keep talking. Let's keep looking through these opportunities out there because you can find a house that could potentially give you something to live in and have a discount on it off of retail versus being one of those people that just buys like a move-in ready house and overpays. And be wary of the folks on YouTube that tell you that foreclosures are bad, short sales are bad. Oh, that you buy an old home, watch out, very difficult. It's like, well, to you, everything's difficult. You're not doing anything. So you got to do something. And I just like older homes. But great question. Township near me just voted to block multiple new housing developments because the lots were too small. A lot of builders in Ohio are trying to put a 2,000 square foot house on an 1/8 acre. It's sad. It's really sad. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, they don't want smaller lots, right? They want bigger. A lot of areas, to your point, great point, Super Tech Boy, they have rules on how big houses have to be. Some of them have to be like huge, right? Like you said, 2,000 square foot minimum. If you go to like the inner city of Columbus, most of the inner city, although some suburbs, you can find homes that are like 1,000 square feet, 3-bed, 1-bath, built in 1950, slab foundation, perfect starter home. They don't build those anymore. Well, one reason is because development's too expensive. Too expensive. Yeah, as a GC and electrician, wow, didn't know you were those things. I'm willing to do more work than most people, but I agree there are deals out there if you're willing to work them. Good for you. Thank you, McConaughey. Love that. Love it, love it, love it. Makes me so happy. It's really, really awesome. Awesome to hear. It's one of the reasons why I do this channel is to hear stories like this. That's one of the reasons why I'm an agent, because I like helping people find homes that make sense for them, right? I helped somebody recently buy their first house. They bought it on a conventional loan. They paid under asking. It's an older home, but they got what they wanted and they got the price that made sense for them. And they were willing to do work and they were willing to be patient. So you're right; those opportunities do exist. And don't believe the hype that people are not buying houses, and don't believe the hype that it's only BlackRock that owns homes, and don't believe the hype that it's only baby boomers that are buying homes. False. Person I helped buy a house, first time home buyer, conventional loan, and they are just two normal people, and they are younger people. They're not Gen X. They're not baby boomer. So people are buying properties. But I think a lot of people want to pretend, McConaughey, that they're not to make themselves feel better and give them an excuse for not doing anything. And that I can't help you with. I can't support you then if you're just going to lie to yourself. But you are doing the work, and that's awesome. And you don't have to be an electrician or a GC to do that work. You can either, and depending on what work it is, like you're not going to rewire your house if you're not experienced in rewiring your house, obviously. But you can hire somebody to do it. And there's a lot of work you can do yourself that's not that difficult, especially cosmetic work. It just takes some practice, right? But YouTube's a great way to learn just some cosmetic stuff. Like, oh, I want to put in a vanity, not a big deal. Oh, I want to put in a sink, not that hard. I want to paint, super easy. I want to, I don't know, hang a door, not as easy, but it can be done by just a average everyday person. I want to put in flooring, not as hard as you may think it is. I want to tile a bathroom. Not as hard as you think it is. So take some risk and do something outside your comfort zone. I'm pro ADU if the neighborhood has adequate parking. Some of the neighborhoods in California already have parking problems and they still approve the ADU permits. Yeah, you got to have adequate parking. I agree. Do you run into any knob and tube wiring? Heck yeah. Oh, yeah. Lots of knob and tube, which sometimes it works okay. Is that, it just depends on what condition it's in and what you're trying to do to the house. What you see is a lot of knob and tube connected into new wiring. Like they'll put a new panel in and then it'll have like all new Romec wiring, all the new type of wiring. I think it's called like 3-strand I think is the term for it, coming out of the panel. And then it'll connect into knob and tube at some point in the basement because the knob and tube is strung throughout the house in the walls. And to rip all that out, you'd have to rip the walls apart. So I see that a lot. It's like it's like a hybrid. So we do see a lot of knob and tube. And that, my friends, is the great example of why you're going to see a lot of these homes, a lot of these Silver Tsunami homes be bulldozed. Because people are like, I'm not willing to do that work. I don't want to rewire the house. I don't want to do that. 9 out of 10 people I help buy a home are unwilling to do labor. Unwilling to even think about it. It's sad. You're welcome, Josh. Thank you for the support. Thanks for coming on the show, man. I was a financial analyst for 3 years after college before I went back into construction. Sweet. So you got it all covered, man. What do you think of these over 50 housing developments where the houses are reminiscent of starter homes and very pedestrianized neighborhoods with parking in the back? Over 50 housing developments. You mean like build to rent? Is that what you're talking about? So I did a video a while back on my channel about build to rent, where they're basically all new homes, but like you said, they're patio homes, and then they have parking in the back, like a little garage. And the developer built them only to rent. They're not for sale. I think you're going to see more of that because people like living in single family homes. So I guess those are kind of single family homes. But they're not necessarily over 50. They're just for everybody. I did interview a couple residents of those developments and they love them. Like they were like, yeah, I lived in an old big house. Now I'm older and, I'm a widow and I wanted something that was single family, but I didn't want all the upkeep. So this is perfect. I think you'll see a lot more of that as boomers get older and as even Gen X gets older. I think you'll see it if that's what you're talking about. And if you got knob and tube wiring, you're probably got lath and plaster. Absolutely. Lath and plaster. So that's what McConaughey's talking about is this right here, right? Bam, right here. Well, that's a great example of old wiring. Let me see if I can zoom in at all anymore. Oh, I didn't. Dang it. Right there. So this is, they call this lath, which is slots, wooden slots. And then what they do is they put the plaster before drywall was invented or people were using it. They put the plaster over the lath like putty almost, or like a covering. They do it a lot in California and a lot of southern areas. They do it with stucco on the outside of the house. And so this is lath and plaster, or plaster and lath, however you want to look at it. And that's what you see in a lot of old homes. And you've got to rip all that plaster out. And then what's exposed are the beams. And then a lot of times what they'll do then is then put the drywall over the beams, right? That's the next step. But this is that old wiring. That's not a great picture of it, but they'll take this wiring out now that it's exposed and rewire this. And that's what they should do. 37075, Cassandra. Oh yeah, want to look at some of these markets. Thanks for reminding me. All right, let's dive into some of these housing markets real quick. I'll take another maybe 10 minutes, and then I want to end the live. I don't want it to go too long. I get a lot of complaints that the lives are too long, so I'm like, all right, well, let me dial it back. And I am going to do more lives. I enjoy them. I enjoy interacting with you guys. Oops, let me remove this. All right, I will check that for you, and I've got a couple other ones to check first, and I'll get to yours, Cassandra. All right, this is for German. So you got Rhode Island and Boston. So that was the thing about the baby boomers. That was my presentation or my information about the Silver Tsunami and the 32 million homes. I hope it helped you or give you some guidance and some different perspective versus what you're hearing from some other folks out there who, like, it's the only straw. It's the only card they have to play right now because the inventory is not going in their direction. Prices aren't going in their direction that they want them to. You're not going to get that from me because I don't care if they go up or down. I'm like, well, I can't control that. So I'm just going to present the data. Speaking of data, now we're going to get to some markets. If you have a market you want me to review, next 10, 15 minutes, I'll happy to review it. So let's look at Rhode Island and see what's going on. So let's look at inventory first, and then we'll look at prices. So Rhode Island has year over year, you're up 12.7% in inventory for sale. That's consistent with what we're seeing throughout the U.S. A lot of areas have more inventory than they did last year. Very few have less inventory than last year. But the real key is how much you have versus 2019. So when you look at 2019 levels, you're down 52.4% versus 2019 in Rhode Island. It's pretty crazy. And if I look at inventory count, look at this. I mean, excuse me. If you've been told that inventory is exploding everywhere, I want you to ask them about Rhode Island. 1,679 homes on the market right now. Pre-COVID, 3,505. In 2018, you had 4,179 homes on the market. So inventory has been falling there and really hasn't recovered at all. I mean, barely recovered. I mean, it's like a smidge, right? Let's look at prices now and see what's happening in Rhode Island. This is for the state. What zip code are you in? Tell me what zip code, German, and I can get you, and we'll look at the zip code. But home prices up 3.1% there year over year. And since 2020, they're up 58% in Rhode Island. Goodness gracious. But yeah, if you tell me the zip codes, I can dive into that. So the green is obviously, as far as inventory goes, is up year over year. Brown is down. So there are some zip codes where like this zip code, 02822, has 62, nearly 63% fewer homes on the market than last year, not 2019. This is compared to last year. So there's a few areas with more inventory. 02874. Let's see if you responded. Yeah, German, let me know what area you invested in Rhode Island. I can check it out. But yeah, it's there are a lot of areas where inventory is growing in Rhode Island, but somewhere it's falling. That's crazy that you have fewer homes on the market than last year. Look at 2019. So there's one zip code, right? Yeah. One zip code in the entire state where you have more, one zip code where you have more inventory than 2019. One zip code out of the entire state. It's not just Rhode Island. New Jersey's in the same situation. It's like 10, 12 zip codes out of 700 zip codes in New Jersey have more inventory than 2019. So like everywhere in Rhode Island has nothing for sale compared to 2019. I mean, some of these areas, look at this, down 61%, down 66%, down 59%, down 46%, down 80% in inventory versus 2019. Nuts. Let's look at prices. So again, orange or yellow down, blue is up. So if you look here, like this zip code 02809 down 6%. I'm sorry, down 0.6%. But zip code 02817 up 7.9%. And 02822 up 8.4%. So like there are some areas that are down in home prices, but not down a ton. But not a lot of areas where there's a lot of more inventory, or there's more inventory than 2019. That's nuts. Okay, you're in 02909. Prices up 0.3% there in that zip code. And since 2020, you're up 65, 66%. So if you bought before the pandemic, you're up a lot. But now let's look at inventory there. Active inventory. Oh, I want this. So year over year, you are up 0.6% in active inventory in that zip. And since 2019, you're down 33%. And if I look at the inventory count, you've got 22 homes on the market, they're saying, in that zip code. Back before COVID, you had like 33 homes. Before that, you had 61 homes in 2018. So inventory doesn't seem to be building there at all, or much at all. I mean, look at this. During COVID, you had 22, 18 homes, 19 homes. What does it matter? We only have 22 homes on the market. There's just nothing. So obviously, I'm sure you're going to hang on to that property. Doesn't seem like there's a whole lot of inventory there. Interesting stuff in Rhode Island. I've never looked at Rhode Island, so thank you. All right. Yeah, Josh, I will do that one here in a minute. Let me go back to my list. Now let me do Boston. Where are you in Boston, German? Let me know, because I'll pull that one. And then I'll do this one for John Doe. Gladwin, Michigan. Gladwin, Michigan. Easy for me to say. That's a county. Got it. Well, since 2019, you're down 42% in the number of homes for sale for Gladwin County, Michigan. Man. I mean, it's improving. You probably have more inventory than last year. Nope, no, you don't. Active inventory year over year in Gladwin County down 10%. So you have fewer homes on the market than you did last year and in 2019. Again, very hyper local, and that narrative that you hear that sellers are finished, nobody's buying, inventory is exploding. Not so fast. Certain areas are like that. I showed you that in Florida, but not everywhere. Look at home price, only up 1.3% year over year. Home price growth is definitely slowing in most areas of the US. Let's look at home prices since 2020, up 34%. So your run up in Gladwin County is nothing like it was in Rhode Island, where it's up 60% or whatever it was. But still, you do have decent growth, 34%. I wonder. Let me look at since the peak. Yeah, since 2022. Many areas peaked in home prices in 2022. Not all of them, obviously. But since 2022, you're only up 4.8%. What does that mean? It means literally from 2020 to 2022, you got like a decade of appreciation in like those 2 years, because you're up 34% since 2020, but you're only up 4% or 5% in the last 3 years. So that growth is definitely slowing. which it's probably normal because you can't sustain the price growth that we saw in the last few years, right? You just can't sustain it. Anyway, that's happening in Gladwin County, Michigan. Sandra, can you check 37075? Yeah, where's that? Interested to find out. 37075. Tennessee. Sweet. All right. This is a different look. Look at inventory. Up 15%. Up 15% year over year. This right here, by the way, through 2022 is when the US and a lot of areas, especially like this area, saw a surge of inventory for sale because interest rates rose. So people threw their homes on the market. And a lot of areas, prices came down during that period of time. So let's find out if it did. But first, let's look at inventory versus pre-COVID. You're up 9% versus pre-COVID. So different than Michigan, where they have fewer homes for sale versus pre-COVID, you have more homes, 10% more homes. Now let's look at pricing. You are up 0.5%. That's it, year over year. And the growth has been anemic. I mean, look, like, again, 2022, look what happened when they threw the homes on the market. People that think that supply and demand does not matter or supply doesn't matter are just lying to themselves, right? Or they just don't know. But if it's a YouTuber, they're just lying to themselves and you, because look at how look at how prices ran up right here. And remember, inventory spiked in 2022, and look what happened to prices. Right down. They really haven't recovered that well. So like if I look at since March of 2020, you're up 46% since 2020. But look at since 2022, you're down 3%. Again, those 2 years from 2020 to 2022 wrecked most housing markets from an affordability standpoint. But since then, since 2022, you're actually down in home prices. That's now this is zip code level, but it's not hyper local. So it could be like a street level, maybe there's a school district divide there somewhere where you're seeing something different. But this is like what the data is telling me. I mean, look at this. Like, go back to 2022, home prices have been down every month, year over year. Look at this, down, 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 down. I wonder what they'll give us a typical home value and see how that's trended. Yeah, look, everything ran up right here to 525,000. Well, it's expensive there. And then it dropped, and it's kind of just gone sideways overall, but it came down a few percentage points. So like, you've already had your peak of home prices. I mean, it could go back up, right? We don't know what the future holds. But point is, it's not going straight up anymore. It's sideways. So if you purchased at any point in this period of time, particularly at the height, you've either lost value or it hasn't gone anywhere, on average, according to Zillow data. That was really interesting. Thank you for suggesting that. Always like looking at Tennessee. What's up, Josh Hall? Inventory of 95610. All right, going to the other side of the country now. All right. Active inventory year over year up 4.7% for Sacramento. So you do have more homes on the market than you did last year, but it's not a ton. I expected to see more than that. Active inventory versus 2019, down 22%. So you have fewer homes on the market in this California zip code than you did last year. Than you did in 2019. And you only have a smidge more homes than you did last year. If I look at the count, look at this, 56 homes right now on the market. you had 85 in 2022. 2019, you had 72 homes. So yeah, you're just not even back to pre-COVID levels. Let's look at prices. Home prices down 1.7%. Just like Tennessee, look what happened. Inventory went up. We know inventory went up from that previous chart, and then prices started to fall. Inventory matters, folks. It's just, it is what it is. And there are markets where inventory is not amazing and prices are sticky. I mean, you are down 1.7%, but it's not like it's fallen through the bottom of the planet, right? Let's look at since 2020, what's happened. Same story. Look, 30% growth since 2020. So in 5 years, you got 30%. That's 6% a year. But, devil's in the details. Look at the price shift since 2022. Down 5%. Again, all that appreciation happened in literally 2 years, which it completely contradicts what most people think. Most people are like, oh, home prices went up, been going up the last 5 years. In some markets, they haven't. Yeah, look at the home value here. 527 grand was the peak. Then it fell, and now then it started to go up slightly, but then it started to fall again. But it never hit the peak again. You never hit that 527,000 number. That was your peak. So in some of these markets, the housing crash or correction may have already happened. Like if they lower interest rates enough, not lower, if they can get the 10-year lower and mortgage rates drop enough, then you could have seen a correction already, and then prices could go back up, especially if you don't have a lot of inventory, which it doesn't look like you do. It looks like the market's just kind of stuck. I didn't look at this at the other zips, but I will look at new listings and see what those are doing. Yeah, look at new listings. Down 18%. That's a problem. If you're not adding more new listings than you did last year, it means inventory is not going to grow. I mean, it just is. Unless demand falls further, which it's really at an all-time low, almost demand is overall in the US. So people aren't buying a ton of homes, but they are buying some. But when you can't put more new listings on the market, it means that sellers don't have to sell. And so inventory is not going to grow the way it is. We had like 200 to 400,000 new listings every week leading up to the great financial crisis. And now we're like at 83,000 a week. It's just not, we're just not adding a lot of inventory overall. And again, market specific, but that's what I'm seeing. It's an interesting zip code, but price, it just looks like it's a stuck market. But the thing that would scare me big time if I was in this area is not a potential of a crash, not a crash, bro. But I would say that I would be worried about this active inventory. It's just, I mean, you're down versus pre-COVID. So unless that changes, you're probably not going to see much price movement. Could be down or up a percentage point, 1.5%, 2%, but you're not going to see like this 50% correction that a lot of people say is coming, right? But based on what I'm seeing in these zip codes anyway that you've shared with me today from all over the country, Tennessee, Rhode Island, California, I don't see it. But we did look at Florida and the prices are definitely coming down there, although they're not crashing 50%. Cool. That was a good one. What else I got? Okay, I'll do this one. John Doe, 48624. Okay, I'll do yours. Then I'm going to do Brockton, Massachusetts. I'm like a crack addict with these zip codes. I'm like, oh, one more. Okay, two more. Okay, one more. 48624. Oh, that was your Michigan, right? Yeah, in Gladwin County. Active inventory up 0.7% year over year. Active inventory since 2019 down 53%. Goodness gracious. Nothing on the market there compared to pre-COVID. Home prices up 1.3% year over year. And since March of 2020, up 38%. And since 2022, you're up 3.4%. Kind of looks like the county we looked at already. But yeah, you got all that growth in the first 2 years. Now it's just kind of going sideways in a way. Going sideways. Okay. Brockton, Massachusetts. Yeah, we'll look at that real quick. Brockton. Did I spell that right? I may need a zip code. I probably do need a zip code. Yeah, I need a zip code there. German. It's not going to give me a. It's not going to help me. Bel Air, Maryland. Mike, I need a zip code. That would help tremendously. Okay, 02301. Year over year inventory up 2.9%. That's it. And you've been starved for inventory there. Since 2019, what do you got? Down 36%. 36.5%. Man. Home price year over year, what are you up? Up 0.8%. That's it. You can see that growth is slowing. There's no doubt. Definitely slowing. Because you are adding more inventory, although you're still not back to pre-pandemic levels. Since 2020, you're up 45%. Since 2022's peak, you're up 10%. So different than some other areas where you're only up a few percentage points compared to 2022. You're actually still gaining ground with home prices. Although, again, it is slowing. Like, you look how it ran up, right? You got to the point, like, here's 2022, $477,000. Then it kept going up and then kind of went sideways over the last, since this year, it's kind of gone sideways. But by no means has it crashed at all. You can kind of see what happened during the great financial crisis back here, right? Homes were 307,000. Then they kind of dropped. They did. They dropped to 185 grand. So you lost, the average of the typical home value there in that zip code. By the way, they do typical using the 35th to 65th percentile. They take out all the top end and all the low end. So I like that because they're taking out kind of the outliers. And in any case, you dropped all the way to 185 grand for the typical home value. Then since 2012, it just took off, right? And now it's 527,000. Think about that. Like, back in 2012, homes were 185 grand. Now that same house is 527. Wow. Wowee. That's what's happening with 02301. Cool. Good one. Good one. Oh. 21014. In Maryland. Really like to see what's happening here. Inventory year over year, up 33%. Wow. So definitely more homes than last year. Helps if you're looking for a home to buy. You're still down 36% versus 2019, versus pre-COVID. Let's look at the inventory count. Got 56 homes on the market. Back before COVID, you had 88 homes. And back in 2017, you had 150 homes. A lot of people never talk about this part, but most areas were losing inventory before COVID. Like, you can see how inventory was falling. But you're not even, you're still woefully low. You are gaining ground, but it's not like it's the inventory is definitely not exploding. Home prices up 1.9% year over year since last year. So up a little bit, not a ton. Since 2020, you're up 33.5%. And since 2022, you're up just 8.6%. Typical home value, 478 grand. It hasn't crashed. Is that an all-time high? 78. Yeah, it's an all-time high. So right now is an all-time high price for you in Maryland, 21014. Who would have known, right? All-time high according to this data. Wow. Dang, thanks for looking. Were you hoping for like a lot of more inventory, I imagine? Yeah, I mean, it's just not there. It's not. And I think a lot of people, unfortunately are like, they just spin these narratives that I don't know why. A lot of them, I think a lot of people were bit during the great financial crisis and they have like a personal grudge against the housing market, against realtors, against investors, against anybody doing well in the housing market. And it's like, well, and then they want like the economy to crash and jobless claims to skyrocket. And you're like, well, that's going to make it not easy for people to buy homes, though. They really don't want to talk about longer term solutions. It's always like, hey, we need like the recession to be called so that the fraud is out of the system. It's like, dude, when's the last time fraud was out of any system? But it's entertaining at least. At least it is for me. Tucson. I love it. Old Tucson is awesome. Do they still have old Tucson? My grandfather used to work there. I like Tucson. I like it a lot. 85747. Let's do it. Ouch. 85747. I type like an old man. Active inventory up 3.8% versus last year. And do me a favor, hit the like button if you haven't already, especially if I've helped you at all. Hit the like button. Active inventory versus 2019. Look at this, folks. So people are like, man, you're weird with this data. Who cares? But look at this. I mean, you have 59% more homes for sale versus 2019. Completely different than Maryland. Completely different than Rhode Island. Different than all these other areas out east we were looking at. Even different than Sacramento, right? That's Sacramento zip. Wow. 59% more homes for sale. What does that mean as far as inventory count? Yeah, look at this. You got 124 homes right now on the market. It's not a decade high, but you're close. I mean, look, you have to go all the way back. I mean, if I go all the way back into 2016, you don't have that many homes for sale. Now, you looks like you peaked in 2022. I keep telling you guys, look at this. You could see the spike in inventory in 2022. And that caused prices to fall in many areas. And then it dipped because what happened? Rates came down, basically. Somewhat came down. And people bought again. But then inventory started to rise again, and it's kind of still up there. 124 units. Good. All right, let's look at prices. Year over year, prices down 3.2%. More inventory, lower prices, especially when it ran up that fast. Since March of 2020, pre-COVID, 45% increase in home values there. But this will be interesting. Since 2022, down 4%. Again, all that growth happened in those 2 years, literally. Literally 2 years where you got all that home appreciation. I wish it went back further. I don't know why he took this out. to ask him about that, on what's happening. Let's look at 10-year appreciation. Oop, it doesn't have it. Can't look at that. Look at single family value. 366 grand for the typical home. 379 is where it looks like it peaked. See, you're under the peak. It hasn't recovered since then, or it hasn't, exceeded the first peak. Back in 2006, homes were 278 grand. They fell all the way to 160 grand. Then they went up from there. Now 367. But you can see that decline. I mean, I don't know if I can zoom into this or not. What does this do? Nope, that's not helping me. Is it? Is that helping? No, it's not helping at all. Yeah, I can't. That's not going to help us look at it. But yeah, you could see this decline right there, how it's just home prices have just steadily fallen. Not crashing, not going like down to a point that you're like, whoa. But look back in 2006, what happened? I mean, homes were 279 at one point, and in 1 year they fell to 259. That's a big drop. Then they fell to 225. So you were at 379. Now you're at 366 over a 3-year time period, right? 2022 to 2025. Yeah. Yep. So prices are declining there. You're gaining inventory. If you're buying, that's good news. If you're selling, you better price that home right. I mean, don't get greedy. Don't be like, oh, this is 2021 again. It's not. Definitely more homes on the market. I'm sure you're seeing that. If you're not, I'd be surprised. But thanks for suggesting Tucson. Keep it going, making this panel swap fly by. Panel swap. Oh, electric panel swap, huh? Nice. Pay attention to what you're doing. I don't want you to get electrocuted. That's a job I would never do myself. It scares the heck out of me. Then electrical work like wiring new outlets and monkey business like that, or lights, I would never rewire a panel myself. Looking to upgrade. No homes listed and new builds cost too much. $900K for a good school district. Yep, I'm seeing that too, Mike. Yeah, I think a lot of people are in your situation, and in Maryland too. Wow. Yep. So the data checks out, right? I mean, it does. Low inventory numbers, not a lot there, kind of frozen market. You're looking to upgrade. Yeah, a lot of, it's interesting. A lot of people are, I think, looking to upgrade, and they're not getting any love because there's nothing available. Kind of weird, right? Crashing is a huge opportunity to make money. I think that's what every doomer hopes for. I don't agree. I think every doomer wants an excuse for their inaction. I think that's what was really going on. They're like, I'm too scared to do this. I'm too scared to do that. I don't like it. Like, I hear it all the time from these guys. Like, they're like upset at people who buy real estate and make money, but yet they want to buy real estate and make money. That doesn't compute. Like, it just doesn't compute, right? And they almost shame people for buying. And then they tell you outlandish things like, I'll tell you when you should buy. Like, don't worry. We're going to give you the all clear signal when you should buy. What? You can't be serious, right? But then the people listening to that who are kind of on edge or not confident in moving forward at all, a lot of the people their psychology, I think, is telling them inside their brain, I'm looking for a reason not to move forward. And then they're given it from the doomer, and then they get more clicks because they're like, see, right there. See, that's why I'm not doing anything. See? It's like, yeah. But he's talking about like overall, and he's making a narrative about it versus saying, tell me where you live and let's look at the market. Because they're not all the same. And not everybody's situation is the same. I mean, your situation is way different, McConaughey. Most people are like, I can't swap out an electrical panel. So everybody's deal is different. So I think that doomers just give, if you listen to that Michael Zuber interview I did, he nailed it. He was, I don't call them evil. I don't think they're evil. I wouldn't go that far. But because they're probably really good people at the end of the day. It's just the fact that they, I think, have been scorned by the housing market at some point in their life. They feel cheated. And so they're like, I want to give myself more excuses not to do anything. I mean, because like there are doomers that own rental properties at low interest rates. Are they part of the problem because they're not selling their second homes? Some people, they would tell you they are, but that's them. So it's like, what are you talking about, man? That's how I feel. Las Vegas. Las Vegas. All right, let's do Las Vegas. Any particular area? Can you give me a zip code of Las Vegas? Whoops, that's Las Vegas, New Mexico. That ain't going to work. Well, let's look at Las Vegas. Active inventory up 35%. 35% year over year. Good. You're only up 11% since COVID, but you are gaining. So you probably have a lot more choices there. No doubt about it. You've got 10,000 homes on the market. In 2022, you had 11,000 homes on the market. But if you go back through the last decade, you definitely have more homes than you've had in the last 10 years. So that's a great sign if you're a buyer. Great sign. And you have to think prices are coming down, right? Let's look. Yeah, look, down 0.6% for that area. 0.6% since 2020. 43% growth in home prices since 2022, down 3.4. Way different market. So you've got, we just looked at one where, oh, it was in Tucson, where home prices are down since 2022, and Las Vegas is the same way. You're welcome, Kelly. I hope it helped. Really, I really like helping people with this info. What's up, YouTube? Crashers are nail biters who have no balls. You made me read that, right? That's hilarious. I don't know. I think, again, I just think it's part of their, I think they're good people, probably. They are. Most of them are probably really good people. I mean, shoot, like some of these doomers out there, like are out volunteering, like, you know, searching for like bodies in hurricane areas. So they're good people. They're doing, I mean, they're volunteering to a level that I don't volunteer at. So I think that's like really commendable. But like their messaging, I think, hurts a lot more people than they realize. And there's also messaging on the other side that doesn't help. Like the guys that are like, you should just buy and date the rate, marry the house. That's completely foolish and a horrible thing to say. Or the realtors that just recite like regional data. And they're like, see, it's a great time to buy in Columbus, Ohio. It's like, give me a break, man. That's your message? That's weak. So I think there are people that hurt people on the other side being so aggressive and always buy real estate. It always goes up. It's like, I shouldn't be saying that. But the doomer side is just as bad. I mean, think about Reventure Consulting. I mean, I started listening to him. It was like the first YouTube real estate video I ever watched in, like right after I got my license. I really started getting into this thing, and he was like, doom's here. We're done for. Man, hopefully people didn't listen to him then, because prices have ran up since then. I mean, you now you're like, I should have bought. I should have bought. So that doomer attitude is not great, especially when you're not in the business, right? You don't have it. You're not doing it. Buyers think they are expert market timers. Yeah, can't time the market. Can't do it. Can't do it. You're just gonna have to pick your target, your budget, your price, and be cool with going out and getting the house if if it makes sense for you. But whatever you do, if you're like, I'm gonna just time the bottom of the market, I doubt that's gonna be successful. We are stuck in our starter home, which isn't the worst, but just feels like the market is not moving in our area. It's probably not. A lot of markets, it's not. Yeah, in your in Maryland, right? That's the other thing. Like there's a lot of folks like you that are and whatever you do, hopefully you're not going to sell that house. If it's a starter home, buy the next one. Don't sell that house as long as it makes sense, right? To keep it. But I always encourage people not to sell their homes. Keep your real estate. It's either upgrade to be house poor or stay in a starter home that doesn't reflect our salary. I mean, I pick number 2. That's what I do. I mean, if you have extra scratch, find something to invest in. Find a house, find a duplex to invest in. Find a house somewhere in the area. Maybe not in your zip code, but somewhere to invest in if you want to buy something to add to your real estate portfolio. But you don't want to be house poor, man. Do you? I want to see that. And that's the difference, I think, with bears and doomers, right? Like bears are like, hey, I'm going to show you how to make money in a downturn. Doomers are like, don't buy when it's down, don't buy when it's up. And then they say things like, it's about to get really, really bad. And then you probably wonder, at least I do, what does that mean? It's about to get really bad. How does that help me? It doesn't. Doesn't help me. The worst one is the vacant house story. Because I'm like, how does that help anybody? And there's 15 million vacant homes. By the way, none of them are for sale, but they're out there. That just makes you more angry. So it doesn't help anybody. It's just a complete buffoonery. Just piling up cash in high yield savings, gold mine hunting for a rental that needs a little work in a decent area. Yeah. Have you checked out One Rental at a Time School? SKOOL. Have you checked this out? This is Michael Zuber's school program. I don't say call it school program. It's just a platform, but it's got a lot of investors on there. It's like $20 a month, I think. And it has a lot of investors all over the country that are in your situation. And they have like accountability calls. Whatever level you want to engage in. I've been on there before asking for some help and reading through the posts, and I get a lot of good ideas. So it's maybe a way to find some opportunities in a different way of attacking the market. I use this. This is what I use to find deals. It's a yellow letter. And so when I see a house that's kind of beat up in the area I want to buy in, I write them a letter and say, hey, you want to sell your home? I've found a lot of my rental portfolio through this process. That's how I do it. And it's not complicated, but it takes work. So I like it. I like you're piling it up in high yield savings. I'm wondering what happens as that high yield savings percentage comes down. As the Fed lowers their rate, if mortgage rates don't fall, what happens, right? Kind of weird. You have to have a compelling reason to trade a 3% mortgage to a 6% mortgage. You're dang right. Like you got to have a big reason. I've helped people. I mean, I don't tell people what to do with real estate. So if somebody comes to me and says, this is what I want to do, I give them some options and say, here's some things to consider. And then if they say, no, it's okay, I want to buy anyway, I'm like, all right. But I've worked with people that have sold houses with 3% mortgages and loaded in at a 7% mortgage. I have in the last couple of years. And I'm like, man. Now, I don't know their exact financial situation, so maybe it's a good move for them. But you're right. It's going to have to be a big, compelling reason to do that. Yeah, my mortgage is 3%. Yeah, unless there's a really big reason to sell, don't. And I would say hang on to it for a rental. Make that your rental. Right? I don't know what it would do with cash flow, but it's a starter home. Maybe it would do well. I mean, I know people that have rented out their primary home and moved into an apartment and then pocketed the cash flow. And they're like, nah, I'm not going to sell. I got a great mortgage. I'll let that amortization play out. And by the way, mortgage debt is not the worst kind of debt in the world. The people that say that are, yeah, they're being disingenuous to themselves and you. I mean, credit card debt's bad. Car loans are bad. Retail debt's bad. If you treat a mortgage correctly and the debt correctly, it's very powerful. I said I was going to get off of this live, but I haven't, obviously. You guys just have good conversations. I like it. A way to price your offer. 2019 price times 4% interest times 6 years, 300K in 2019, offer 380 now. Maybe you could do that. But how I look at it is, here's my target number based on what I can pay. Meaning, if I can pay 300 grand and that makes sense for me at 300 grand, and that's like my affordable price or my affordable offer, I make the offer at that. I never pay attention to the listing price. I just make the offer regardless, because it doesn't matter what they're asking for the home. Unless you're going out to buy like your home, like your dream home to live in, that you're like, this is my ultimate home, I'm willing to pay what they're asking, then the asking price makes more sense. But otherwise, I'm like, nah, just make the offer that makes sense for you, whatever that is. But there's a million ways to skin the cat. Yeah, check out School. Check out his channel. One Rental at a Time has so much free info. He's got millionaires on there that are actually doing the work. They're not just like, don't buy. They're like, no, here's a strategy for you. And they're all normal people. It's him. Dion Talks, I would check out. He's another like Michael Zuber guy, but he has his own channel that's fantastic. Lumberjack Landlord, I would check out. They all have very good information that's free. Yeah, high yield savings have been dropping. Yeah. CarMax has gotten killed lately. Do you think subprime models will be bad enough to break the financial markets? No. I think the government will step in and do something. Not saying they should, but they will. They will. I mean, they already bailed out student loans again. Nobody's talking about that, but they already said, hey, we're going to give more forgiveness for student loans. We're going to extend that. Very quietly, they did that. The government will extend and pretend. They're not going to let, I mean, they may let some companies go BK, but if it hits the banks, they're going to backstop them. That's what they do. They've learned that since COVID. Not since COVID, since the GFC, right? If rates dip to fives, the market will begin to change. Agreed. I agree. People buy on payment. That's how consumers purchase. That's why buy now, pay later is in such a problem. That's why the car market's in such a big problem, because people are buying $100,000 cars at $1,000 a month. Because they're like, I can afford $1,000 a month, even if they can't. They don't pay attention to the 100 grand. So I think one of the problems I've had, one of the mistakes I've made, is I've gotten too accustomed to YouTube comments with people saying price is more important than payment. Price is more important than rates. Home prices are more important than the actual interest rate. That's like this percentage of the market. The most of the market's like, no, payment's more important. And prove me wrong, because that's why buy now, pay later is in such a problem. Consumers buy on payment, so they'll continue to do so. If rates drop, they'll come back in the market. Unless they can't afford to even make the payment, right? They can't qualify for the payment because of job loss or whatever. Well, then that's different. Funny you say that. Yeah, I'm considering that. No HOA close to the freeway and tons of corporate parks around. I may just rent it out and try to strike some deals on the new build. Yeah, nothing wrong with that at all. Nothing wrong with that. My wife and I did that. We knew we didn't want to be in the city we were in. This was several years ago. Did not sell our house. We moved out, left it as a rental, and moved into an apartment until we found exactly what we wanted. So if you can cash flow your current house, then and rent something, that is affordable to you could be a good idea. And being a landlord is not that tough. I mean, there are pluses and minuses to everything, but it's not like it's it's I just tell you, I mean, the first of the month is a good first to the fifth of the month is a good time of the month for me usually. I have rentals and they pay their rent. And you get that check and you're like, or the deposit, and you're like, well, that was nice. Debt on a depreciating asset, a car is the worst. If you can even consider a car an asset, more so a liability. Absolutely a liability. Absolutely. Oh yeah, that's for my forever home. Right. Forever home, you got your own analysis there. It's great. This channel used to be pretty neutral. I really enjoyed the just facts data and listing reviews. It seems like there's some bias involved in the more recent content. That's a bummer. Sorry you feel that way, George. No, I'm trying to be I'm trying to give you the facts, which I have. Like today, I showed you housing markets. You can't deny it. I showed you housing markets that were up, housing markets that were down based on what y'all wanted to see. But I can't tell people to not do anything and that the market's never been so toxic and you should just sit on the sidelines and wait. I can't sleep at night doing that. I have to give you the facts. The facts are there are times when you should buy real estate and there's times you shouldn't. To say you should never buy or you should always buy is crazy. So I think that's pretty neutral. But thanks for your comment. I appreciate it. Is there a market you want me to check out? Let me know. Yeah, MPCs look at monthly payment and not total cost. They do. That's how people buy. What's up, Billy? Home prices are dropping here, not crashing yet. Can you tell me what zip code? Let's look at it. But on edge, rents are down 20%. I saw a home listed for 289,000. The cheapest home in that area has been over 400 since 2022. Yeah, let me know what zip code you're in, man. Let me take a look at it. Yeah, definitely. I'd love to see it. Let's look at a zip that you have. Let me see here. I'm ready when you are. You know, one of the things that I've seen lately is this. So if I look at, and this is for George, look at the number, like every state has more inventory than last year, right? But if I look at versus 2019, that's where the picture kind of changes, right? The Northeast, Midwest, kind of mountain state, I guess, or the North area, however you want to look at that. And then California are down versus 2019 in inventory. But some areas are up a ton in inventory. Florida, Texas, Tennessee, Arizona, right? Washington, Idaho. So there's definitely some pain out there. I'll give you about 10 more seconds, George, to tell me where you live so I can look at the actual data. Oh, look at this. I wonder if Klarna will do mortgages. That'd be hilarious. Buy now, pay later for mortgages. Oh my goodness. Yeah, hopefully not. Is that inventory based on total market or condos versus single family versus multifamily? It's total market. Total market. Good question. I can look at that actually. I think no, I can't in inventory. I can look at it in prices, I believe, but I can't do it in inventory as far as condos go. Like I could do condo price year over year by state. So yeah, look at Florida's down 10% year over year in home prices. for condos. That's for condos. Look at single family. Down 5%. Okay. But if I did that on every zip code, it would take so long and it would be impossible. But when I do my next live, if you want to see like some condo stuff, we can look at it. Somebody wanted to see lower tier home price year over year on one of my lives. So how they do this with Zillow is they look at, like you can see it up here, the 5th through 35th percentile of home values. How are those performing versus the mid tier, which is what they usually give, like the typical house. So when you look at that bottom tier, Ohio up 3% for cheap homes, I guess you want to call it. Florida down 7% for inexpensive homes, or that lower tier. It's kind of a different way to look at it. This right here is, let's see, let's do one of the things I show you is this. Look at home price shifts since 2022. Like Ohio's up 13.7%. Florida's down 4%. California down 2% or 0.2% since 2022. Since 2020, only one state is under double digits as far as prices running up since before COVID. Again, that tells me all that price growth happened in the first, like from 2020, 2021, some of 2022 is when all that price growth happened. Look at Montana, up 64% since before COVID. Idaho, 53%. Ohio, 50%. Indiana, 51. Who's the most? Maine, 63. New Hampshire, 68. Do I have a 70? I don't know if I have a 70 or not. No 70s. But, well, I mean, Montana's almost there. 53, 46, 51. Yeah, home price is just completely crazy. So, like, it would take a monumental crash for home prices to decline where you hear people talking about a 50% correction. Like, people are like, homes are 2x too expensive. You're like, okay, but we have to live in reality, and they are. Are they going to fall 50% or 100%? I don't know. Like, let's look at this. This is typical home value in California. And this was an area where they got hit with the GFC, right? Pretty hard. So here's a history lesson. 500 grand back in 2006 for the typical home value in California. Look where it fell to. It fell to $291,000 by 2011. So 500 grand to 300 grand. So they lost $200,000 in home value in those years for the typical home in the state. That's a big drop, right? Check this out. Wrong one. Let me see. Let me show you this from the GFC level. This is Ithaca, New York. Same time period. In 2006, homes were $147,000 there in Ithaca, New York. I couldn't believe this when I saw it. In 2012, they were 180 grand. In 2011, they were 176 grand. Homes went up. The value of homes went up. Home prices went up in Ithaca, New York. And this is just an example I found during a time when all other markets pretty much, or a lot of other markets, were falling. But I can't say all other because that's not true. And so when you look locally, some markets, actually a decent percentage of them, never dropped that much during the great financial crisis. So people are like, hey, we're waiting for home prices to crash 50%. Okay. Or people are like, I mean, I've actually heard verbally from folks that they're looking at home prices going to correct 5% in 2024, year over year. That didn't happen. Then they said home prices would correct double digits in 2025. We're still up nationwide in 2025. So it's like home prices don't fall nationally or in every area the same way. And during the great financial crisis, they didn't fall in Ithaca, New York that much. Check out Columbus, Ohio. Check Ohio, Columbus, Ohio. Like we peaked at like 167 in 2006 and we dropped all the way down to 142. Some carnage, but not complete carnage. Again, real estate's hyper local and not everywhere crashed during the GFC. So if we have a correction of home prices, will it be 50% reduction of prices throughout the United States on every metro and every zip code and every county? Some people are actually telling you it will. But they're the same people that say we got to look at the history, and the history tells us, didn't happen like that last time. Some home prices went up. Some just crashed a little. Some crashed a lot. Like this area crashed a ton. Check this one out. You want to know what I do when I'm not on a live? Is I look at data. Look at Modesto, California. Look at these prices. Look at that. 411 grand or near there. 415 is where they were in 2006. Look where they fell to. 154. That's the drop everybody wants right now, right? It's crazy. 415 to 154. Homes got cheaper in Modesto, California than they were even during the crash in Ohio. Believe that, right? Unreal data. So there are areas that completely collapsed. And then there are areas that were like kick rocks, recession, kick rocks, housing crash. I'm going to keep going. Another area I think happened when I looked is the Steel City, Championship City, Pittsburgh, PA. Let's see. Typical home value. Same thing. I mean, look, it peaked in like 2000. Well, it didn't peak in 2006. Look, 2006, 119, 2007, 121, 2008, 122, 2009, 122. So there was their crash. 2010, 128, 2011, 125, a little down by 2 grand. Then 127, 131, 136, 142, 146, all the way up to now, 226. Very steady. Very steady. And they're at an all-time high price now, right? Yeah, all-time high price in Pittsburgh, PA. Is what it is, folks. That's the data. That's my unbiased data. I'm just showing it to you. It's not a theory. It's not my opinion. That's what happened. All right, do you give me a zip code here? Because I gave you a little more time. You didn't. Huh, Billy, I'm disappointed. I was really hoping for a zip code. Hey, April, how are you doing? Well, a lot going on today. All right. Boy, I went way over, but thank you for participating. Thanks for joining me. We'll do more lives. Hopefully not this long. I can't do this all the time. It wears me out. But I hope you learned something about the housing market, about the silver tsunami, about the boomers, about all that jazz. And we will see you again on The Housing Nerd. Like, subscribe, share. I'm The Housing Nerd, and I'm out. OUT out.